Breaking news from Rome as Pope Francis I has announced plans to resign from his position at the end of the month.
In this big moment for the Catholic Church, Pope Francis is stepping down, wrapping up a decade of change focused on mercy, inclusion, and justice. But why did he have so much faith in one guy, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle? The Church is at a crossroads now. Can Tagle bring the unity that's so desperately needed? Can he keep the hope, peace, and progress alive? This compassionate reformer has worked all over the world, from helping the poor in Africa to bringing different faiths together in Myanmar. Now, his vision could really influence where the Catholic Church goes next. There's a tricky balance to strike between tradition and progress, especially with global tensions and divided opinions within the Church. Is Tagle's path going to be one of unity or division? Let's dive into this huge shift and what the future might look like for the Church. Cardinal Tagle is becoming a key figure linked to the Catholic Church's future. He's shown a lot of compassion in helping the poor and vulnerable, and he has a knack for connecting with people of different faiths. But the reality of extreme poverty still looms large, affecting families everywhere. Tagle has led in a way that really aligns with the values Pope Francis has championed. The fact that the Church is at this pivotal moment makes it clear that Tagle, who's already making waves globally as a reform agent, might just be the right person to carry on the Church's mission. The big question is, will he be able to hold on to the progress Pope Francis made while steering the Church through these tricky times? For over 10 years, Pope Francis has been reshaping the Catholic Church, giving it a fresh look and breaking down the walls that often kept it from changing. His papacy has tackled social justice issues head-on, from pushing for help for the poor and vulnerable to calling for action on climate change, and even questioning the Church's old-school views on sensitive topics like sexual abuse and the role of women. It was a game-changer. Pope Francis has worked tirelessly to create a Church that's more inclusive and compassionate, and sources close to him believe he feels he's done what he set out to do. Now, it's someone else's turn to lead. Pope Francis has always believed that the Church can adapt to modern times without losing its core teachings. Despite facing huge challenges both inside the Church and in the world, he might feel that his time has come, and it's now up to a successor to guide the Church's evolution. Rumors are swirling in the Vatican that Pope Francis has someone in mind to take over. While the official decision will come from a conclave of cardinals, it's thought that the outgoing pope will have a significant say in who that will be, and his choice will reflect the values he's promoted during his time. According to insiders, Pope Francis's pick sees a Church that's inclusive, socially aware, and engaged with the pressing issues of the day. The timing of his resignation lines up with the Jubilee of Hope, a global event he started, focusing on reflection, renewal, and hope during tough times. This event, kicking off on Christmas Eve 2024, might be the grand finale of a papacy that has left a strong mark on the Church. It's the end of an era for many, but also the beginning of something new. This is a moment that could really define the future of the Catholic Church, and everyone's watching closely to see what direction it'll take under its new leader. The Catholic Church has gone through some big changes lately. The Pope has been tackling issues that used to be way too controversial to touch, like climate change, the abuse crisis, and the role of women in the Church. He's also been working on fixing Vatican finances to make things more transparent and accountable. There have been plenty of bumps along the road, but Pope Francis has stayed committed to making the Church a force for good in the world. As he steps down, he knows there's still a lot left to do. The Church is always evolving, and his resignation doesn't mean the changes he started are coming to an end. It might even be a bit similar to what Pope Benedict XVI did. At Pope Benedict's funeral, tens of thousands came to pay their respects, with Pope Francis leading the ceremony. He was the first pope in modern history to resign instead of passing away in office, setting a new precedent. Now, it's time for another leader to take the reins. The Church finds itself in a tricky spot, dealing with ongoing scandals related to clerical abuse, debates about the role of women, and the full inclusion of LGBTQ Catholics. The next pope will need to balance respecting tradition with being open to change, which is no small task. They'll need both wisdom and courage to guide the Church through these challenges. One of the top contenders for the papacy is Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle from the Philippines. He's a really compassionate guy and has a strong focus on helping the poor and vulnerable. As the Archbishop of Manila and President of Caritas International, Tagle has dedicated much of his life to addressing the needs of those who are struggling. He's worked hard to fund schools and vocational training programs in sub-Saharan Africa, helping families rise out of poverty while strengthening their faith. In Myanmar, which has faced a lot of ethnic and political conflict, Tagle has tirelessly tried to bring Catholic and Buddhist leaders together for reconciliation in a divided society. His leadership is all about sticking to the core values of the Catholic faith: compassion, justice, and peace. He encourages indigenous cultural participation in church activities and speaks out on global issues like migration and climate change. Tagle really embodies a church that reaches out beyond borders, offering hope, peace, and healing. That makes him a strong candidate to help the church move forward, especially since he has a knack for connecting with different cultures and faiths. As we gear up for this historic transition, it's clear that Pope Francis will still play a key role in shaping the Church's future. The final decision will be in the hands of the cardinals, but Pope Francis will have a say in how things unfold, and his successor will reflect the changes he's worked hard to implement. Cardinal Tagle has the experience and compassion to carry on Pope Francis's mission as the Church steps into its next chapter. An important part of Tagle's rise was being appointed as the new prefect of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples. In this role, he'll oversee the Church's missionary efforts and outreach worldwide, and his leadership will significantly influence where the Church is headed. While many think Tagle's path to the papacy is pretty much a sure thing, the reality is that the papal election is still up in the air. He's got some tough competition from other cardinals, including Cardinal William Goh of Singapore, who has a more conservative approach and is seen as someone who can unite the traditionalist factions within the Church. Tagle is seen as a progressive guy who's been pretty vocal about including LGBTQ Catholics and tackling social justice issues in the Church. While these views might resonate with more progressive folks, they could also push away some of the conservative members. How he manages to juggle these different perspectives will be key to his success. One of the big criticisms against Tagle is how he's dealt with the Vatican's relationship with China. People have taken issue with his silence on this complex situation, especially since he's held important roles in the Vatican, like coordinating outreach to China. His hesitance to comment on the controversial Vatican-China deal has raised eyebrows about his leadership. Critics say that not speaking up on such a sensitive topic shows a lack of independence and conviction, which could be a major hurdle on his path to becoming pope. Another significant point of contention regarding Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle revolves around his tenure as the Archbishop of Manila. During this period, he garnered considerable attention, not only for his ecclesiastical duties, but also for his outspoken political stance. Many observers believe that he ventured too deeply into the political arena, particularly when he publicly criticized the policies and actions of former President Rodrigo Duterte. This boldness has elicited a spectrum of reactions from the public and within the Church community. For some, Tagle's willingness to speak out against the government is a testament to his unwavering commitment to social justice and his desire to advocate for the marginalized and oppressed. They view his critiques as a necessary moral voice in a time of political turmoil, emphasizing that the Church should not shy away from addressing societal issues and injustices. This perspective posits that a true leader, especially within a religious context, should engage with the moral implications of political actions and stand up for the values of compassion and justice. Conversely, there are those who argue that his political engagement detracts from his primary responsibility as a spiritual leader. Critics contend that Tagle's focus on political issues undermines his capacity to guide the Church in a more spiritual and neutral manner. They worry that by aligning himself with certain political views or movements, he may alienate segments of the faithful who may not share his perspectives, thus compromising the unity of the Church community. Additionally, there are voices within the Church that assert Tagle did not take a sufficiently strong stance against clerical misconduct during his time as Archbishop. This criticism raises concerns about his authority and effectiveness as a leader. Some individuals interpret his perceived lack of action as an indication of weak governance within the Church hierarchy, suggesting that he may have prioritized political issues over addressing the pressing internal challenges facing the institution, such as the need for accountability and reform in response to clerical abuses. In summary, Cardinal Tagle's leadership as Archbishop of Manila has sparked a complex debate. While many laud his advocacy for social justice and his courage in speaking out against political injustices, others express concern that his political involvement and handling of clerical issues may detract from the Church's spiritual mission and undermine his authority as a leader in the faith community. Despite the significant pushback he has faced, many of those who advocate for Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle firmly believe that he embodies the very qualities that the Church desperately needs during these challenging times. They see him as a leader who possesses a profound sense of humility, a deep well of compassion, and an unwavering faith that resonates with the core tenets of Christianity. His track record demonstrates an impressive ability to unite individuals from a diverse array of cultures and religious backgrounds, fostering dialogue and understanding in a world that often seems divided. Furthermore, Tagle's progressive stance on social justice issues aligns harmoniously with the vision that Pope Francis has laid out for the Church. His commitment to advocating for the marginalized and addressing systemic injustices reflects a modern approach to leadership that many believe is essential for the Church's relevance in today's society. Supporters argue that Tagle's inclusive and empathetic approach not only embodies the spirit of the gospel, but also positions the Church as a beacon of hope and unity in a fragmented world. In light of these qualities, they contend that he is precisely the leader the Church needs to navigate the complexities of contemporary life and inspire a new generation of believers. If Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle can successfully address the myriad challenges that lie ahead, particularly his current silence regarding China and the apprehensions surrounding the perception of him being overly political, he has the potential to emerge as a remarkably solid leader for the Catholic Church during these challenging times. The Church stands at a pivotal juncture in its history, especially in light of Pope Francis's recent decision to step down, which has opened the door for new leadership. In this context, Cardinal Tagle has positioned himself as one of the foremost contenders for the papacy, making the stakes even higher. The future of the Catholic Church feels both uncertain and brimming with potential. It is a time that demands a leader who can effectively bring together the various factions within the Church, someone who can deftly balance the rich traditions that have defined Catholicism for centuries with the progressive ideals that many believe are essential for its relevance in the modern world. The Church is confronted with numerous global challenges, from social justice issues to the need for environmental stewardship, and it requires a leader who can respond with clarity, vision, and unwavering conviction. In navigating these complex dynamics, Cardinal Tagle will need to not only articulate a compelling vision for the Church's future, but also foster unity among diverse groups that may have differing priorities and perspectives. His ability to engage in dialogue and build consensus will be crucial as the Church seeks to move forward in a rapidly changing world. If he can rise to the occasion and meet these challenges head-on, he may well prove to be the transformative leader the Church needs during this critical time in its evolution. Whether Cardinal Tagle is the right fit for the job is still up in the air. Only time will tell, but he has the experience, compassion, and commitment to justice that make him a strong candidate to lead the Church into a new era. As the world watches this historic transition unfold, there's a lot of potential for the Church under Cardinal Tagle's leadership. The next chapter could be pretty exciting, especially if he can overcome the obstacles ahead.